Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This one we're going over the 10-game NBA slate for today on Draftkings. Not the most exciting 10-gamer in the world. There is some good plays, but there's kind of a lot of meh plays and guys that might be a little bit overpriced. But we're going to go over it anyway, and there's a couple value options I like as well. And as always, things will open up throughout the day as injury news is reported. But before we continue, if you guys could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You also follow me on Twitter at ChrisParnell16. And if you're interested in the spreadsheets about every single night, links in the description below for my Patreon and my Discord. And yeah, I think that's about it. I got defense versus position charts on there, my cheat sheets, projections, advanced statistics. Everything's color coded, so it's pretty easy. It's what I use to build my lineups every single night, and it's been a really good year. So I think you guys would like it, especially if you enjoy these videos. And I just woke up, so my hair's a little rough right now, but I'm sure you guys don't mind. But anyway, actually, before we get into it, last night was crazy. It was like Chalk City. 33. I tweeted this last night. 33% of the field in my cash games had the same lineup. I was part of that 33% though. I mean, it was probably the most obvious lineup all year. I mean, after all the Wizards guys were ruled out, the lineup was Isaac Bonga, Bradley Beal, Rui. What's her name? Luka Porzingis. Yeah, I can't remember the rest. It was, Bertans and Rudy Gay and the Spurs center. So it was probably the most obvious lineup. I mean, it was pretty easy to build. But yeah, 33% of the field had it. I think I played in a bunch of like the $50 double ups, and then I was in the $100 single, and then a couple of other singles. And I finished like 8th in the single, and or like 9th, and I made like one of them was $100, and I think I won like 102. It was hard to win money last night because everyone had the same exact lineup. I think out of like 181 people, I finished like 22nd in the double ups, and I like $50 double up, I won like 76. So it was a really tough lineup really tough night to make money with all the chalk. Everyone was like 60 or 70% owned. It was crazy. I've never seen anything like it, but I understand because it was a pretty easy lineup build. Just because of all the chalk, because all the Wizards guys were ruled out. I really wasn't on any Wizards guys in the video, but, that's why I said you guys got to keep up to date on news, because guys get ruled out, and it makes other players really good plays when no one else is left in the lineup. And I always update that on my spreadsheet throughout the day. But without further ado, I say we get right into the video. So, yes, you can always play Giannis. I say that every single night. There's always a blowout concern with these Bucks, because, I mean, he was going to smash versus New York, and then he didn't play the fourth quarter. So my favorite spend up, as always, is going to be Luka Doncic here at 11,600. He was my guy last night. Fortunately, only played 28 minutes in the sort of a blowout, and he only had, not only, but he had 65 points. He could have had more. And, I mean, he probably could have had 75 to 80 points. He had 33 points, 18 rebounds, 5 assists, no fouls, no blocks or steals in only 28 minutes. The guy was going to go absolutely nuclear. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the end result. Honestly, probably could have had close to 50 points, probably like 42, 44 points, over 20 rebounds, and maybe if he would have got 5 assists, it would have been one of the most monstrous triple-doubles we've seen all season. But the guy's been great. There's never anything bad to say about Luka. 65, 59, 73, 43, 70, 62, 77, 78, 57, 74. He's pretty much the best DFS play every single night, almost. He's getting 34 minutes per game, 1.76 points per minute, and a 36% usage rate. This is a back-to-back, but it's not something I worry about with Luka. He's only 20 years old. He will be fine. He only played 20 minutes last night, so he's still going to be pretty fresh. Not like he got over-exhausted last night. And this is the highest total on the slate right now at 230 or 232. Last night it was 232, but I think I saw it was 230. I did already have my notes written down for 232, but it's the highest on the slate right now. And like last night for the when they were going up against New Orleans, it was a pace-up spot. Well, again, it's a pace-up spot. It's actually even more of a pace-up spot because Minnesota is first in pace-up play while Dallas is 17th. And I always like getting guys in pace-up spots. And apparently Luka did as well as he dropped 65 points in 3 quarters. This is also an elite matchup versus Minnesota, who is 26 versus point guards. So this is a pretty similar matchup as it was last night. I do think Minnesota can keep this game pretty competitive. And if they do, I think we get 70-plus points out of Luka. So at 11,600, definitely going to want to make him a staple of my lineup. He's got the highest ceiling. Well, him and Giannis do, but I really like Luka a lot, and he's just a little bit cheaper, so I would definitely take Luka here, and there's less blowout risk as well, and I like the game environment better. So Luka, he is my guy tonight again. Now, you could run him back with Cat as a little mini game stack, but gotta be honest, it feels like I'm still point chasing those monster games he had in the earlier in the season where he faced Charlotte and Brooklyn, two of the easiest matchups it is for centers, when he had like 70 and 80 points. Because after that, we have not gotten anything like that. After that, I still feel like we're point chasing a little bit. Now, I'm not saying he's been bad by any means, but we haven't gotten those huge monster games. I know he's had a couple of 60-point games, but the majority of the time, he's in that mid 40-point to 50-point range. I mean, 44, 52, 60, 62, 34, 63, 56, 55, 53, 49. That's not bad or anything. I'm just saying at 10,600, I mean, I think he can get you 60 points, which is obviously around 6x, which I think is fine. But he's just been in the 40 and 50-point range a little too much, and it's a tougher matchup versus Dallas, who's 7th versus centers. Although I think this game's going to be pretty good for fantasy purpose, so I have nothing against KarlAnthony Towns here. I just worry if he's at 10,600, if he's going to fall in that 45 to 50-point range. Although, I mean, I think if Minnesota's going to have a big back-and-forth game, I think Towns is going to have to be a big part of it. So, yes, you can definitely run it back with Towns and Luka, and I think that's a fine game stack. I'm just not totally sure if I'm going to be able to fit in Towns tonight because there's some other guys I like a little bit better. And Trey Young, he comes in at 10,400 now. I finally played the guy 2 nights ago, and he scored 33 fantasy points. I mean, man, that sucks. I finally played the guy, and he's been pretty much great all season. I always said he's a little bit inconsistent, which is why I don't play him, but he's capable of those big games. Well, I thought it would come versus Golden State, but, you know, they won 104 to 79. He still had 34 minutes, and he was less than a point per minute. Not something I expect from Trey Young again. So I think he can definitely bounce back, and the Vegas total wasn't out last night when I was doing this, but I believe when I glanced at it, it was at 222, which is a little lower than I thought, but it's still decently high. And this should be a pretty good game for fantasy. Both teams do play pretty fast, and Brooklyn is 6th in pace, and Atlanta is 8th, so it should be pretty back and forth. Also, both teams aren't great defensively. Brooklyn's better than Atlanta is. Atlanta's the second worst overall defensive unit right now for fantasy points given up. Brooklyn is more middle of the pack, but they're also ranked 29th versus point guard, so that grades out really well for Trey Young. And he has a 34% usage rate and 1.39 points per minute. So I do think Trey Young is a pretty good GPP option. Could you play him in cash? Yes, but I really, at this price, I don't think he's that much of a cash option, but he could definitely have go nuclear in this game and drop 60 plus points. It's what he's done. I don't know if he's played Brooklyn recently. No, he hasn't. So I was going to see what he did versus Brooklyn last time, but Trey Young, I do think he's a pretty good play in a good matchup. And in the same game, right across from Trey Young, Spencer Dinwiddie, he comes in at 8,200. Now, does he feel overexpensive? Yes, but I don't hate him in GPPs or even in cash. Probably more of a GPP play, but you could stack him up with Trey Young as well, just for a back and forth, and that's an Atlanta game. His usage rate is well over 30%, and with Kyrie Irving being out, and he's yet to really have a bad game with Kyrie or LeVert out. I mean, 44, 65, that was awesome versus Boston. 38, 43, 42, 36, 41, 50, 35, all solid games. I'm not really complaining about any of those games. So, and this is a really good matchup versus Atlanta. They're awful defensively. Both teams play pretty fast. They're 21st versus point guards. And with Kyrie Irving off the court, he's at 33% usage rate and 1.3 points per minute, which is not too bad at all. So I think Spencer Dinwiddie is a pretty good play. Now, if he was in that 7K range, I think he'd be probably close to a lock. Maybe not a lock, but definitely like way high on my radar. 8,200, that gives me some pause, but I do think he should be a pretty solid play tonight. I have no problems with Spencer Dinwiddie. And then after that, Damian Lillard seems really cheap, but KarlAnthony is definitely soaking up a lot of usage. I believe he's at a 25% usage rate, which is definitely taking a hit on Damian Lillard. I mean, if you look at his game log, 31, 39, 44, 39, 47, 37, 40, 29, 44. Now, before Carmelo, he was getting in that 40 to 50, upper 40s to 50-point range consistently, pretty much. So he's taking a hit, which was the price. But again, I don't have too much interest, but the price is pretty nice. Valanciunas, he is questionable. I'm not sure if he's going to play. He was out the last 2 games, but if he plays, he's coming off of 2 monster games. He had 60 versus the Clippers and 53 versus Utah, and those are tough matchups, and he saw over 30 minutes in those games, so the minutes have been up. And if he plays, I mean, this is a smash spot versus Chicago. He's been well over a point per minute on this season, always been a really good point per minute producer. But Chicago, they are 30th versus power forwards and 30th versus centers. So if he plays and gets over 30 minutes, I mean, I think he dominates. It wouldn't surprise me if he got another 50-plus points now. Am I saying that's going to happen every single night? No. Usually he's going to be in that upper 30s to 40-point range on high upside games, but this is definitely a smash spot versus Chicago, and it wouldn't surprise me if he got, a 20-20 game, if he, sees full complement of minutes. So keep an eye on Valanciunas. If he isn't good to go, you could always play Darren Jackson, who I believe is 6,800. And he had a really good game last time out. 45 points with no Valanciunas. He had 34 minutes, 10 for 19 from the field, 31 real-life points, 45 fantasy points. Not too bad. The price is up, but he did start at the 5, and if he starts at the 5 versus Chicago, or even if he just plays the 4, I think he's going to be just fine. I mean, they absolutely suck versus big men, one of the worst rebounding teams in the league. We know Darren Jackson's got high upside, so definitely keep an eye on that situation. And obviously, Bruno would come in and play as well. We had 36 points the game before that, and then they had like 5 as chalk the last night. So just keep your eye on that situation. I have no idea if he's going to play or not, so I can't tell you guys what to do, really. John Moran's out, so that's going to open up some minutes for Tyus Jones and D'Anthony Melton. But the next guy I wanted to talk about is Donovan Mitchell, because he seems a little cheap here. So at 7,100, I believe this is the cheapest he's been all season, or at least in the past 10 games. I think I scrolled through the whole season. I think this is the cheapest he's been. Now, he has scuffled as of late, 28, 26, 37, 32, 28. Last good game being versus New Orleans and Golden State, 2 really good matchups. So now he gets a tough Lakers team who's pretty good defensively, but no Mike Conley on the floor. Does open up some usage, and LA is actually 20th versus shooting guards this year, so that's like their lone soft spot. So I don't mind Donovan Mitchell here at 7,100. He seems a little bit cheap, and the Lakers are going to put the pressure on Utah, so I do think Donovan Mitchell should have to have a big scoring game. So he's on my radar. Don't really love playing Donovan Mitchell because he's a little hit or miss, and it's a tough matchup. But no Mike Conley, and he is cheap, so I don't mind taking a shot on Donovan Mitchell. But Jabari Parker, he comes in at 6,400, and I do have interest in him. Now, he has burned me the past 2 games. I've played him the past 2 games versus Houston. Only had 20 minutes. It was a blowout. 19 points. I give him a pass there. Last game, a little bit of a blowout. Only saw 28 minutes, didn't see his 30-plus minutes. So, again, I have to give him a little bit of a pass, but still, 28 minutes, I expect more than 21 points. He's been well over a point per minute. You'd think he'd be able to get you 30 points versus Golden State if he only played 28 minutes. Wasn't the case. Only scored 8 points, 5 rebounds. But I do want exposure to this game, as it should be one of the better fantasy games to target, or better games to target for fantasy tonight. Now, it's not a great matchup versus Brooklyn. They are 9th versus small forwards and 5th versus power forwards, but really it's just getting exposure to this game. But he is mainly a GPP play for me. You could play him in cash, but just know he's a little bit risky. He's been up and down all season. I mean, he had 64-point game, 24, 38, 34, 25, 32. So mainly you're going to get that 25 to 35-point range with the upside of 64, though. I mean, he did it. You can't take it away. 33 points, 14 rebounds. And he's been solid on the court this season. 1.12 points per minute and a 24% usage rate. That's pretty solid. So Jabari Parker, he is on my radar as of right now. So someone to keep your eye out if you want to play him in GPPs. Chris Middleton, I think he's a really solid play today at 6,100. So he returned to the starting lineup finally after about 4 games coming back from injury. Only saw 18 minutes because they blew New York out of the water. He still had 32 fantasy points, though, 16.7 boards. And he's just a little too cheap here for someone that should see not 30 plus minutes, but maybe 30, 31 minutes in this, if the game is competitive versus Detroit. Although I do always have concern with blowouts with Milwaukee, but we'll see. But in limited time this year, he's got a 24% usage rate and has been about 1.12 points per minute, which again is very solid. And Detroit is a good defensive team, but the Bucks should handle their business here. They got 115 implied team total. They play at a pretty fast pace. So Chris Middleton, definitely someone that should be on your radar. Then I think Jarrett Allen would be somewhat interesting. Not my favorite play in the world, but Atlanta is just so bad defensively. More of a GPP option because the guy's got huge upside versus Cleveland. We saw it, 62 points. That's when he had 34 minutes, so I don't expect that to happen again. 30 minutes versus Boston, 42, then 33 to 22. So kind of up or down, but Atlanta is 20th versus centers. He's well over a point per minute, 1.13 point per minute on the season. I think Jarrett Allen's a solid play, but again, not someone I'm probably looking for in cash games. And then after that, it gets pretty gross, and there's not really any people I have too much interest in. Markkanen versus Memphis, maybe at 5,600. I think that might be a solid play. Kem Birch versus Phoenix, who struggles versus centers, but I feel like he's a little bit overpriced. Justin Winslow had a good game last game. Tyus Jones is going to see extra run with Morant out, but I really don't have too much interest in. I will say Jarrett Allen had those big games when DeAndre Jordan was out, but after that, there's not a lot of guys I like. So we're going to go down to these value guys. There's one that really pops out to me as of right now, and that's going to be Emmanuel Mudiay at 3,200. So no Mike Conley's going to open up some minutes for these usual bench guys for the Jazz. Even if he doesn't start, he's going to, at this price, he'll have an expanded role, which definitely gives me interest. He's almost mid-price, and he's going to likely see anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes, probably more around the 22-minute range. Does he anything special? Absolutely not. But he's been okay on the court this season, 0.92 points per minute and a 24% usage rate. So he's definitely in play versus the Lakers team. His only struggle spots on defense are versus guards. Emmanuel Mudiay would qualify, so definitely have some interest, especially with the minutes increase and no Mike Conley. Now, really, he's not been good this season. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say that because he's had very limited minutes, and like I said, 0.92 points per minute. But it's not like he's had like a big game this year, but we'll see if he's given 20 minutes. I think he can squeak out maybe 20 points, maybe a little bit less, but 3,200, not asking for too much there. So Mudiay's definitely a player. Then his teammate Royce ONeal comes in at 3,600, and we got to have interest in him as well. He's one of the most unexciting plays for fantasy, but he's had some decent games. He had 20 points 2 times in the past 4 games at least. He should see about 30 minutes in this matchup. It won't be pretty, though. He's only averaged slightly over 0.6 points per minute this season, but I do think he can crack 20 points for us in a tougher matchup. But Royce ONeal definitely on my radar. And I should talk about D'Anthony Melton here. So I don't actually remember his price, but he's had some pretty good games recently with, Morant's been out. 4,600, the price has come up, but I did like him last night. I ended up scoring 32 fantasy points, 25 minutes, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 16 points. Not too bad. I mean, he's been flirting with triple-doubles the past 2 games. For the first game with Morant being out, 9 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. Not too bad. In Chicago, they're not the best defensive team in the world. They're way worse down low than they are versus guards. But, Melton's been good. He's been getting about 25 minutes per game the past 2 games, so definitely someone that would be on your radar because the guy has been good. But again, if, Valanciunas is out, it just kind of hurts the usage rate for some other players. But, it's not like they play the same position. So just someone to keep your eye on. And again, things change throughout the day. And if you want my updated info, links in the description below for my Patreon, where I update my spreadsheet all the way up until lock, and my Discord chat. And I'm going to leave you guys with that. I wish you guys the best of luck, and I hope you guys have a great Wednesday.